Welcome to the debate. Imagine someone drops like a box of 13,000 paper receipts on your desk,
Oh, that is a nightmare scenario.
right? And you have to find out exactly which sales agent sold the most refrigerators in the North region. And your boss needs the answer in 5 minutes.
Yeah, doing that manually is pretty much the definition of a bad afternoon.
Exactly. And this exact scenario is at the heart of the Excel Champions training philosophy, which forces us to ask a really critical question. Is the intuitive drag-and-drop magic of a pivot table finally democratizing data for the everyday worker? Or is that magic actually a dangerous illusion that accelerates disastrous decisions if you don't understand data architecture?
Well, I will be taking the stance that true mastery requires prioritizing structural integrity, because without rigorous, expert-level data preparation, the pitfalls of automation actually just accelerate disaster.
And I'll be arguing that pivot tables are revolutionary precisely because of their accessibility. I mean, they act as a magic sorting machine, turning hours of drudgery into a 60-second job for the average user.
I mean, the problem is that the magic you were talking about is highly deceptive. The training material emphasizes a golden rule, which is that a pivot table is only a reflection of its source data.
Right, the raw data you start with.
Exactly. If the starting database of rows and columns contains inconsistencies, well, your quick drag-and-drop report just lets you present incorrect numbers to your boss much faster.
True mastery isn't about speed. It really requires manual verification before you ever click insert. I hear that, but when you look at manually filtering and adding up a massive spreadsheet, you're looking at a task that leaves colleagues stressed and honestly prone to constant errors anyway.
Well, sure, manual math is bad.
Right. So by simply taking variables and dragging them into the 4-quadrant design, filters, columns, rows, and values, you bypass all of that. You finish the task in like 10% of the normal time. It is essentially like driving an automatic car instead of a manual.
How so?
Well, it handles the underlying mechanics of cross-tabulation, meaning the actual grouping and matching and calculating of intersecting data points. The driver just chooses the destination. Why should workers get bogged down in data theory when the tool does the heavy lifting?
Because heavy lifting implies the tool knows what you want it to lift. Automatic driving leads to blind trust. Look at what happens when you drag a variable like revenue into the values quadrant.
It adds it up.
Exactly. Excel defaults to a sum calculation. It just adds everything up. But what if the business question actually asked how many individual sales were made?
Oh, right.
The default sum gives you total revenue, not the count of transactions. The user has to realize this, intervene, and manually change that setting to count.
Yeah, the sum versus count default.
Right. And the software doesn't even automatically format the currency, meaning you might be looking at a string of numbers without knowing if it is units, dollars, or percentages. If you just trust the automatic car, you will absolutely crash your presentation.
Okay, I will admit the sum versus count default is a trap I have actually fallen into myself. It is a completely fair warning. But, even if we require users to double-check their math settings, you can't deny the structural power of the visual tools that pair with these tables.
You mean like the formatting options?
Yeah, think about conditional formatting. It isn't just a static paintbrush, it is a living heat map. When a new month of data rolls in, you don't have to manually highlight the new top sellers.
It just updates automatically.
Exactly. The formatting logic sits quietly in the background, instantly reacting to the new numbers and turning the new winners green. And when you connect slicers, which are basically just interactive buttons across multiple pivot tables, you are essentially handing a fully functional dashboard to a non-technical manager.
Right. It looks great.
It really does. That visual speed removes the barrier between raw data and the ultimate decision maker.
But those slicers are just interactive buttons, like you said. If the underlying structure is flawed, you are just letting a manager make a bad decision faster. A pivot table isn't a calculator, it is a mirror.
A mirror?
Yes. No matter how beautifully you design the frame with living heat maps and interactive buttons, if you hold up a warped data set, you will always get a warped reflection.
Okay, I see your point there. The real analytical work involves subordinating categories. If you put sales agents in the rows quadrant and then drag items right underneath it, you are building a hierarchy.
Right. Drilling down into the details. Exactly. You are telling the software to break down every single agent's performance by the specific products they sold. That structural logic reveals the actual story in the data. Because, if you rely purely on surface-level visuals without understanding that hierarchy, you aren't truly analyzing.
But doesn't the integration of functions like VLOOKUP solve exactly that structural integrity problem? I mean, it acts as an automated bridge between data sets?
Well, how are you using it?
So instead of someone manually typing in product descriptions and risking a typo, VLOOKUP reaches into a master database, finds the exact item, and pulls the correct description into your working sheet.
Right.
It entirely eliminates human error. Doesn't that prove you can have both speed and relational integrity without needing a degree in data architecture?
Actually, VLOOKUP proves the exact opposite.
What, really?
Yes. I mean, it is a crucial tool for maintaining data integrity across master tables. And sure, it prevents manual typos, but you can't just type equals VLOOKUP and expect magic. You have to understand relational logic.
Meaning how the tables actually connect.
Right. You are telling Excel, take this specific invoice number, cross the bridge over to the master database, find the exact match, and bring back the agent's name. If you don't understand how that table array is structured, or you forget to specify an exact match, your formula pulls the wrong data.
Yeah, you get false positives.
Exactly. And your beautifully formatted pivot table just multiplies that error 1,000 times. Simple drag and drop isn't enough. You still really need to understand how databases relate to each other.
So it comes down to a balance then. My perspective remains that the approachable, time-saving nature of pivot tables is what fundamentally changes the modern office.
It is definitely a shift.
It takes a terrifying 13,000-cell spreadsheet and turns an intimidating task into an empowering one, saving colleagues 90% of their workday.
And my stance remains that speed without structure is just a faster way to fail. Without a strict audit of the source data and Excel's default settings, you are really just automating mistakes.
But I think we both completely agree that doing manual calculations on large data sets is an outdated, error-prone waste of time.
Oh, absolutely. Transitioning to pivot tables is essential for anyone working in an office today. We both want to avoid presenting the wrong numbers in the boardroom.
Right.
The key is just respecting the underlying architectural rules before you enjoy the time-saving magic.
Well, combining these perspectives is really the best way to approach it. There's plenty more to explore in the Excel Champions source material for anyone looking to master their office data. So next time someone drops that metaphorical box of 13,000 receipts on your desk, ask yourself, are you going to count them by hand, or are you going to build a machine to do it for you?
Just make sure you understand how the machine is wired.